Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for coming to the Mosque Foundation 2020 Candidate Forum. We're so pleased to have our audience guest members join us and our candidates join us as well. Thank you all for coming. Voting is an integral part of our society, of our nation, and especially this community. Elections, and particularly down ballot elections, are very important to a properly functioning society. And what's more important than that is an educated and knowledgeable electorate. And the best way that the Mosque Foundation can express this importance is by inviting these candidates to come join us and share their platforms right here at home. The key is to bring the candidates to the people where they are, which is the easiest and most effective way of conducting participation and democratic participation in our community. So I'd like to thank CIOGC, Mass Pace, and the campaign teams and everyone who helped make this possible for helping us create this. Each candidate will get 3 to 5 minutes to talk about their campaign and give you an idea about their campaigns, inshallah. I'd like to introduce Dr. El-Dirawi from Mass Pace.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. I would like to start by thanking all of you, our community members, for taking this time to attend this important candidates forum and getting informed about the candidates, their agendas and what they are trying to do. I would like to also thank our candidates who really made an effort to come to you here and share with you their thinking and what they are planning to do for our community. For our community members, I would like to say, through attending these kinds of forums and participating in the election process by registering to vote and by voting, through these kinds of activities, we can make a difference and we can bring about a change. قال الله تعالى إن الله لا يغير ما بقوم حتى يغيروا ما بأنفسهم. This is what we want to do. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not change people unless they make the change themselves, unless they change themselves. And this is why we are here today. We are here today to learn about the candidates and being informed and going and vote. And this is when we can make a difference. We, as a Muslim community, we participate in the election process because it is our civic responsibility, our civic duty to participate in this process and to make a difference. With voting, we have voice, we have power, we can bring about change, and we can make a difference. Jazakumullah khairan for being here, and please learn as much as you can about the candidates and go and share the information with your family members, with your friends, and with others. Jazakumullah khairan.
Okay, up first we have Marie Newman running on the Democratic ticket for the Illinois 3rd Congressional District. Please help me welcome Marie Newman.
guys are on it. They're switching microphones every time. Very impressive and very within the guidelines, shall we say. So good afternoon, Salam. So pleased to see everybody here today. I was out in Will County today watching the fall foliage while distributing literature and talking to folks and understanding everybody's issues. And I'm pleased to be in the middle of the district right now today because we are at the epicenter of our world's problems right now. The pandemic has been a tragic and harsh teacher. It's taught us many things. It's taught us that our economy was very fragile. 85% of our economy was broken, and all of it became broken when we were imparted with this pandemic. It taught us that our healthcare system was in deep, deep trouble. It taught us that our racial inequity is worse than it's ever been. And it finally taught us that we are not working well with our international and global partners, and we need to do better. But what can we do? We have an opportunity, right? Whenever there's tragedy, there's great opportunity to do better. So let's do better. Let's work with the Party of Solutions and make sure that we bring prosperity back to this nation. Let's make sure that we bring health care to all. My solution is to take an existing program that works, make it better, and then release it to everyone. That's called Medicare for All. We need to, thank you. Go ahead. For Medicare for All. Let's give a little bravo for that. Next, we need to rebuild this economy. So before I came today, in between the time I was talking to voters in Will County and coming here, I got one of my 3 times a week briefings from the Transportation Committee, the Progressive Caucus, and several other members of Congress. And I have a little bit of news on the Relief Act with regard to when it will be released and how it will be released. So it looks like what they're negotiating over right now is $1.8 trillion. It will go to cities, towns, states, small business, as well as individuals. And that's the way it should be. And then I will wrap up, because I'm being told to wrap up, by saying that I will bring transportation and infrastructure dollars and jobs to this district. I will also bring this district together. I have my campaign chairwoman, Shadden Molly, in the audience today, and she ran my Interfaith Coalition that deeply brought our district together by having forums and talking about things like hate and racism and bigotry. And that will continue on with my administration. It is critical that we continue that work. Let's come together, stop the name calling, and work together. I appreciate all that you do, and shukran.
Thank you, Ms. Newman. Up next, we have the Libertarian candidate for U.S. Senate, Mr. Dennehy Malouf.
That's timer.
Yep.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for being here, and thank you for having me. As Ayud said, my name is Dennehy Malouf. I'm the Libertarian candidate for U.S. Senate. In this race, I do consider myself, of the 5 candidates, the only candidate who always supports and defends the Constitution of the United States, the only candidate who opposes all new forms of taxation and bailouts, also the only candidate under 55, and I believe the only candidate stopping by in person today. For those that don't know, I'm a human resources manager and a volunteer youth wrestling coach for the Kids Club in Crystal Lake, Illinois. My campaign is about helping people to understand that nearly all of the problems we face today are a result of the government being way too big. And in most cases, the Republicans and Democrats have failed the American people, and the two-party system has failed the Constitution of the United States. So what do I mean when I say we have a failed two-party system? Well, I'm 32 years old, and over the course of my entire adult life, we've had a two-party system that has put special interests over the Constitution, that steals 20 to 50% of the money we earn, that engages in endless war overseas, spies on its own citizens, has created the most imprisoned country in the world, has inflated away the value of our money, and has wastefully accumulated a $27 trillion national debt. These authoritarian problems and tyrannical problems require libertarian solutions. So what are those libertarian solutions? We need to bring the troops home now from everywhere. Thank you. No more bailouts and crony capitalism. The government shouldn't be picking winners and losers. We need to repeal domestic spying programs like the Patriot Act and FISA. We need to possibly abolish the CIA and NSA that are spying on American citizens without warrants. We need to end the war on drugs, audit the Federal Reserve, stop all taxpayer-funded foreign aid, follow the Constitution, and perhaps implement some term limits. So what Washington is missing is dissenting voices, and that's what libertarians offer. While the other candidates are competing for who can give away more free stuff on taxpayer dimes, I'm saying that I don't want to run your life, I don't know how to run your life, and the Constitution doesn't permit me to run your life. So please give libertarians a chance in 2020 and give peace and liberty a chance. Thank you.
Danny, I think we're waiting. Okay, great. Up next, we have the Honorable Judge Patrick O'Brien for the Illinois State's Attorney.
Thank you very much. Salam alaikum. Good afternoon, and my name is Pat O'Brien, and I'm running for Cook County State's Attorney. I'm a former prosecutor, Illinois Attorney General, and Cook County Judge. I've worked with the criminal justice system many years, and I've also worked as a lawyer in private practice. I have a long and varied career as an attorney, and I feel that experience makes me uniquely qualified to serve as the next Cook County State's Attorney. My opponent in this race has many questions she should be answering before the voters of the county. She might pop up in a Zoom appearance now and then, but she largely stays hidden away. She refuses to debate me, and she refuses to answer the many tough questions about her disastrous record as state's attorney. These are questions all of you deserve to have answers to before you can cast your vote in this important election. The election for state's attorney is so important to all of our communities because no matter where you live and no matter your race or religion, we all want the same thing at the end of the day. And that is for our communities to be safe, for our children to be safe, and to be free from crime and violence. We want communities to be places where we can go to work, raise our families, go shopping, and not have to worry about being shot or robbed or assaulted. Under Kim Foxx's reign as state's attorney, that has certainly not been the case. Violence has spiraled out of control, and not just in Chicago, but across the suburban communities, including in the South and Southwest. Make no mistake, this is a direct result of her failed policies. Her policies provide more protection for criminals than for our community. I recognize the county is home to a large and vibrant immigrant population, and I truly value that rich diversity and strength of these communities and your community. The Cook County State's Attorney's Office has a crucial role to play in ensuring that a community is safe and protected, and not just from violent crime, but also from hate crime and crime that targets our immigrant populations. Sadly, there are criminals out there who prey on immigrant communities, and whether that's through hate crime, financial, or other crimes, they target a person's immigrant status, nationality, or religious background. As state's attorney, I will be a strong voice for the Arab American community and for all of our communities. I will never hesitate to charge cases and use the power of the office to protect you and your families. And unlike Kim Foxx, you will get to know me. I won't be hiding away at home and refusing to come to the community and listen to your questions and concerns. State's attorney should serve all the residents and not just a few. I was born and raised in Chicago from a working class background. I was fortunate to get an education and become an attorney, but I'm deeply impacted by the fact that, like you, we all came as immigrants, and we all struggle to make our place in this way and to keep our children safe and to see that they prosper, and in a way that they become more than we are because they stand on our shoulders. I believe in inclusion and in inclusion in our daily actions. No one is above the law and no one is beneath its protections. That will be my guiding philosophy as state's attorney. Thank you for listening to me. I hope I get your support. And thank you very much to all of you.
Thank you, Judge O'Brien. We have just enough time for one more speaker before our prayer, inshallah. Up next, we have Mr. Dan Patlak on the Republican ticket for Cook County Board of Review. Please help me welcome Dan.
Oh, should I press this?
There you go. There you go.
Thank you, Ayub. And I want to thank the American Middle Eastern Voters Alliance and its chairman, Bill Haddad, for endorsing my candidacy. As Ayub told you, I am running for Commissioner of the Cook County Board of Review, a rather obscure but very important office. It's the office that reviews property assessment appeals. So if you own a home or a business and you think that the assessment on that home or business is too high and as a result you're paying too much in property taxes, you can come to my office, file an appeal, submit your evidence. We will review that evidence, and if we agree that the assessment is too high, we will reduce the assessment and your property taxes will be lower than they would otherwise be. Just a little bit about myself. I've been a realtor since 1986. I'm a certified Illinois assessing officer, a graduate of the Real Estate Institute. I was elected twice as Wheeling Township assessor. And most importantly, prior to becoming a commissioner at the Board of Review, I was actually an analyst at the board, specializing in residential, commercial apartment, and exempt properties for 8 years. So I had an opportunity to see how the office ran and see what kind of improvements it needed prior to the time I first ran and took office. And since that time, we've made a lot of improvements. But one of the things I ran on when I first ran for office was education. In two parts. One, internal education. When I came to the Board of Review as an analyst, there was no real education program. We learned from the other analysts that worked for the other commissioners. We learned from looking at old files and seeing how they were done, but there was nothing formal. Since I've taken office, I've insisted that my analysts go to the Illinois Department of Revenue and the Illinois Property Assessment Institute, take classes, and become certified Illinois assessing officers. And I can say that I've had more analysts get that designation than any other staff in the history of the Board of Review, and I think we have a more professional staff than we ever have. The other part of the equation is educating taxpayers. Since I've taken office, I've done approximately 400 assessment appeal seminars going throughout my district and teaching people how to file an appeal without the help of an attorney. When I march in parades, and you know all politicians like to march in parades, I don't hand out candy or give stickers. I hand out these cards. And these cards give a brief explanation about the appeal process, how you first can appeal with the Cook County assessor, then subsequently appeal at my office, the Board of Review. So even then, I'm trying to educate the public. When I do these seminars, to reinforce what I say, I always give out these booklets that talk about the assessment appeal process. I brought some of these along with me today. My wife Dulce is in the audience. She has them in her purse. So if anybody's interested in getting one of these, I will be happy to give you one. But my goal is to educate property taxpayers so that they will be empowered, so they will know more about the property tax system and more about their right to appeal and whether or not they're being fairly assessed. I've also got a website I put together about 18 months ago. It's danpatlak.com. If any of you have a real interest in learning more about property taxes and your right to appeal and how to appeal and where you get the evidence and all that stuff, danpatlak.com will give you all the answers. And if you have more questions when you're done with it, you can always type in a question and we'll respond to your question. We've done a lot at the Board of Review since I first was elected. It was an antiquated paper-based system when I first got there. Now it is a state-of-the-art digital system. We've made it easier for average property owners to file an appeal. You can do it all online, electronically. If you want to have a hearing, it used to be that you had to come in for a hearing. Now you can do it with a telephone call. Our analysts look at all the appeals on a couple of screens that they've got at their disposal, and they can talk to you and look at your evidence as you're describing to them why you think you're overassessed. So I'm running for re-election. I ask for your support. My priority is the taxpayer, and I hope that you will find it in your hearts to cast a vote for me on November 3rd. Thank you for having me. Bye-bye.
Although he couldn't make it here today, he was kind enough to send us a video. The Democratic candidate for United States Senator for the state of Illinois, Senator Durbin, will be on the screens to your left and right.
Assalamu alaikum. I'm sorry I can't be with you in person today. I wish we could. The circumstances with this pandemic make that difficult. But I wanted to come and speak to you about this candidacy that I have for re-election to the United States Senate, and I hope your support. I still remember vividly January of 2017. The new president, Donald Trump, had announced the Muslim travel ban, and I was invited to a gathering of Muslim Americans on a Sunday afternoon, a cold Sunday afternoon, in the southwestern portion of Cook County. When I went to the temple to gather with them, I was surprised at how many cars were parked outside. And then when I went inside and down in the basement, I was overwhelmed. People were standing 5 deep, families with children, well-dressed and all in attendance for this meeting when you discussed the Muslim travel ban. It was an interesting program. The children were actually running the program. I remember that because they had stopwatches and they held us to a few minutes each. And I had a chance to get up and speak. I'll never forget that day because I saw the looks on the faces of the people who were with me. And I realized that what was happening in Washington, the decision by the Trump administration, really affected each of those families personally. It broke my heart to think what many people were going through because of the president's statements and his actions that he'd taken against Muslims who were traveling to the United States. I said to the people gathered, and particularly to the young people, that I hope that they would remember several things about this moment. Be proud of your family. Be proud of your faith. Know that you're not going through this alone, that many of us are standing with you. And be prepared for the day in the future in this country when you need to stand up and show courage on behalf of another group facing this kind of discrimination. I still feel that way today. I thank you all for being here in this country, number one. Number two, being actively engaged in the civic responsibilities we have in America. Understanding that immigration is the key to America's success. As the son of an immigrant myself, I've done everything I can to make sure that the immigration system is fair and open. Also understand that the pandemic we face today really calls on all of us to stand together, to work together, to save one another, to make sure that we reduce the deaths across this country. This is a critically important election. I need your help. I need your support. I hope that if you believe I have served you and will continue to, that you'll be with me on November 3rd on Election Day. It is my honor to have a chance to speak to you, and I wish you all the very best.
Thanks, Senator Durbin. Looking good behind the screen. Now I would like to introduce the president of the Mosque Foundation, who also happens to be a best friend / not blood-related uncle to me, Brother Usama Jamed.
Assalamu alaikum. Well, he didn't tell you that I'm not running for any post, so I'm not here to campaign. Actually, I am here to campaign. I am here to push you all, to push myself first, to vote. It's not about who you are going to vote for, brothers and sisters. Sometimes you don't have really good choice to vote for. But it is very important to vote. If you notice, in elections, they don't tell you who voted what. They say how many percentage of the voters did vote. It is important for us to be in the 90% of the Muslim community voted instead of being 10 and 15 and 20%. Politicians, candidates, political parties, they look for those who vote. They don't look at you as just a community. They look at you as a community of voters, irrespective of who you are, even if they see you completely different in their views or in their policies. But they will come after you because they need your vote. So regardless, whether you like what you see or not, you have to vote. Then you are on the mark that you are a valuable voter, and they will come and talk to you. And most likely, if we really put our agenda together, we will have that candidate respond to the needs of their communities. On the local brothers and sisters, it is important. Why? Because in local elections, we can have candidates who can do the streets for us, who can do the sound barrier for us, who can bring services to the community, to the neighborhood. State levels, we can pass legislations that protect our children, that protect our safety and security, that can create jobs, can make sure that we have health care. Definitely we need health care under the COVID pandemic. And also it is important that we have candidates who in Congress can pass policies that affect the people that we left behind in our motherlands. Can you name me one country that is still safe from wars? Can you give me one country that we don't have refugees being humiliated around the world because we had bad policies in the Middle East? That's why we applaud bringing our troops back home here, so that we don't create the animosity between the American people and our people back home. These false policies, these failed policies have done nothing but total destruction in the Middle East. Total destruction in the Middle East. Total chaos. No democracy, no freedom, no human rights. Then what the hell are we doing over there? Those candidates need to know these are our demands. You want our voice? You want our vote? Then you need to do what is good for America. What's good for the friends of America over there if you claim we are the friends over there. We have to hold them responsible, accountable for their decisions and the policies they make. They won't unless you vote, unless you come here, you listen to them, you hold them accountable to the promises they make to us. That's why it is important for us to come here, to show our faces to them and to look at their faces and know who they are. When you come to the ballot, you put the name and the face, you put the name and the promises so that you can hold them accountable to it. Brothers and sisters, we have to be informed, educated voters. Yes, we don't want to throw our vote, but at times Your vote is the protest. It doesn't matter where it goes. It goes in the record that you are a voter, and they will come after you. They want you. They want your vote. And that's the time when you strike the deal. The Mosque Foundation, our policies as a 501c3, we do not endorse any particular candidate, nor any particular party. You are our party. You are our candidates. You are the voters. And we ask you to be responsible, because there is someone else is going to hold you accountable to the power that you have, whether you use it right or you simply make it useless. And the only one who will hold you accountable to that is only Allah. So fear Allah in your vote and make a vote, and let's make a difference this year. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Jazakallah khair, Abu Ghazi. Up next, we have Mr. Brian Dennehy, who's running for State's Attorney. Please help me welcome Mr. Dennehy.
Good evening, friends. I want to thank you for inviting me to come and speak with you tonight. My name is Brian Dennehy. I am a native of the South Side Irish, and I greatly appreciate the chance to come and speak with you tonight. I am running because I'm concerned about our country. I'm concerned about the division. I'm concerned about our lack of civil discourse. I'm running to spread the message of liberty and the message of freedom. And I want everyone to know that you are free, that we are endowed by our Creator with certain unalienable rights. Our rights flow from our Creator. They're not granted to us by man, and they're not to be taken from us by man. We are free people. And how has that concept been expressed in our world? That concept has been expressed in today's world with law after law after law that results in a person being locked in a cage. Is this how we solve our social problems? Is we criminalize something and lock them in a cage for it? It's gotten too far. Let's talk about liberty. Let's talk about freedom. Let's talk about people's unalienable rights to live free. As Cook County State's Attorney, I would have discretion over what laws and who to prosecute for what. And I would focus exclusively on violence and property. Did you hurt anybody? Did you take anybody's stuff? And if you haven't, then I don't see the prosecutor's office has any business with you. I thank you for your time, and bless you, my friends.
Thank you, Brian. Really appreciate that. Up next, we have Mr. Willie Wilson. He's on the independent ticket for the U.S. Senate. Unfortunately, he couldn't make it. But he, one of his chief policy advisors here joining us, and he has Mr. Wilson on the phone to present their kind words. Please help me welcome Mr. Wilson.
Well, it's a beautiful evening, and I'm so glad to be back here in this area in Bridgeview. And I say that because I am a basketball coach, high school level, collegiate level, and I've had the opportunity for several years to travel every season to play your school, both in soccer and in basketball, and you have had some great teams. So congratulations, and I hope that you continue to be involved in sports. I know that we're living through a very difficult time, but the truth of the matter is this: we need to continue. Now, yes, Dr. Willie Wilson, as you've probably read, has not been able to leave his home now for a few days. He has COVID. But we have been out and about speaking on his behalf, and at this time, Dr. Willie Wilson is with us through a phone conversation. Dr. Willie Wilson, can you share with the group that's arrived tonight?
Yes, I can. Thank you very much. Let me first say Assalamu alaikum. And want to thank for this opportunity to be able to address you this evening. As Pastor Shondo has said that we have COVID-19. Otherwise than that, we would have surely been there. But I want to solicit your prayer and your vote. This election is very important, critical for us all. Dick Durbin has spent 38 years in the United States Senate. We have to ask ourselves that why should we give him another 6 years and haven't did nothing in 38 years? Have your life changed from 38 years ago to today? That's the question we all have to ask ourselves. Economic development, making sure that we can bring it proportionally to our community, create jobs, but most important, create contracts that you can do business with the federal government as well as make opportunity for international business as well, through way of rent and things of that nature to make the money available to us as well. Education, health care, equality for all of us. You know, we got to make sure that we look at everyone as equally and treat them as equally to make sure those things get done. The Durbin is for the Crime Bill in 1994, which he supported. He get people locked up for misdemeanor nonviolent. I go and I get them out for misdemeanor nonviolent. The Durbin raised the taxes, not to say anything, let the governor and everybody else raise the taxes. As he raised the taxes, people lose their homes and things of that nature. I goes in and help pay people taxes to help them keep their home. You know, we will continue to do this. When you needed face masks, I went to all of the community, white, black, Muslim, Asian, black and brown, didn't make no difference. We giving away over 27 million face masks, didn't charge nobody not one penny. Why? Because I care. I am definitely one of you. I want you to know that, and we appreciate you. We really look for your support. I'm one that you can always reach out and talk to and meet with. We're not a lobbyist, and Dick Durbin happened to be. He owned a lobbyist company and got wealthy. He became a millionaire by having a lobbyist company, him and his wife. All right? I worked for my particular money. I donated $5 million to my own campaign to make sure that I'm not bought by anyone, that I can rightly serve the people. I'm here to serve. I want you to know that, and not to be served. You have someone here. If you give it an opportunity, I'll be someone that you could trust. But most important, I'll be someone who have compassion, who've been through these things. I've been there. We've done that. My background as a sharecropper, we've always stayed humble. And you know, so I do believe in the Lord, you know. So I'd say that because he always comes first in my life. And we put him first, you know. But we always will do that, and we always definitely will believe in the economic empowerment, development, education, prison reform, and fairness of equality, giving everybody the same equal opportunity that each person should be entitled to do with their family.
Thank you, Dr. Willie Wilson, for this conversation, and we look forward to continue seeing your work in this great state of ours. Thank you, and God bless.
Thank you, Dr. Wilson. How's everyone feeling today? All right. Excited. That's great. So up next, we have Mark Curran, the Republican candidate for U.S. Senate for the state of Illinois. Please help me welcome Sheriff Mark Curran.
It's an honor to address you all. Thank you for having me here today. So my name's Mark Curran, C-U-R-R-A-N. I'm running for U.S. Senate. I'm the Republican nominee. We had a 5-way primary. I won the primary in a landslide. So as Ayub mentioned, I was a longtime sheriff of Lake County, Illinois. I was in charge of the police department, the jail, what have you. And when the Tribune endorsed me for this race yesterday, it talked about what I did in terms of diversity, bringing into the office different people, different groups. We had Islamic clerics that would come into our jail regularly and worked with us. One of my top people, Rami Abdul-Jabbar, I promoted to make sure that we had diversity throughout the office. It was very important to me that we did that and that we showed respect for all faiths. My father-in-law was an Orthodox Christian, but he grew up in Baghdad. And when his father died, the Islamic people were very wonderful to him in helping bury his father and the great relationships that we had there. So as my independent candidate, Willie Wilson, Dr. Wilson said, he's also in the same race as me, but he talked about Dick Durbin. And Dick Durbin has been there 38 years and needs to go. I mean, he has been all about himself, as Dr. Wilson said. If you go to East St. Louis, Illinois, where he grew up, you'll see it's just a horrible community. And that's because I would submit to you that Dick Durbin's been about racist politics, not taking care of the inner city communities. And that's one of the major reasons Dr. Wilson's in the race. And I'm hitting on that as well. So I'm somebody that, despite having had a long background in law enforcement and what have you, when the Tribune endorsed me yesterday, what they said about me was this guy gets it on both sides. Even though he was a longtime police officer and a longtime prosecutor, he doesn't think police walk on water. He recognizes that there's some bad police officers and that people need to be protected from them. I'll tell you, folks, I don't trust the government. Even though I spent all this time in government as a prosecutor and a police officer, what have you, I think that we all can be fearful of the government on some level because you know why? It's made up of human beings, and human beings run the gamut. Some are good and some are not so good. So we don't want to give the government too much power, and that's what essentially has happened with Dick Durbin. It's all about taking power away from the people and cutting into the freedoms and the liberties of the people, of the citizenry. So I'm somebody that will work hard towards that. I also am somebody that very much believes in small businesses. Let's get the government off the backs of small businesses. Too much regulation, right? Too many rules, too much taxation. Trial lawyers coming in and suing at the drop of a hat. We don't need that. Too much litigation. Let's give the small businesses a chance to really survive. That's something I very much believe in as well. As far as immigration reform, I was a national leader on immigration reform. So if you want to look me up, you'll see that Sheriff Mark Curran went around the country trying to pass an immigration reform bill, recognizing that there were a lot of people that were here that were caught in this limbo status that had not really committed any other crimes other than being here, and we needed to resolve it so that we could move forward in terms of securing America. But I'm somebody that spoke very frequently on the concept of immigrants are not, they need to be talked about and spoken of with respect and dignity. And I'm somebody that always lived by that, and you can look that up as well. I'm also somebody that believes in the just war theory. So we fought too many wars. You know, most of these wars that we fought over the last X number of years, and Senator Durbin's been there, you know, building up the military and what have you. I would be against those wars. I don't believe that a lot has been accomplished in the bulk of the wars that America has fought. But I would tell you this much. I've been a friend of the Islamic community. We have Islamic Foundation North up in Lake County. Basim Istakar, who was the head of that mosque, will tell you that Mark Curran is a good guy, that Mark Curran was great to work with as sheriff. And I'm just going to wrap it up by saying thank you all for being here. Thank you for participating in the process. God bless you. I'd love to have your support, but in any event, be well, folks. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Up next, we have the Democratic candidate for the Cook County Board of Review. Please help me welcome Ms. Tammy Wendt.
Hi, everyone. I'm Tammy Wendt. I'm the Democratic candidate for Commissioner for the Cook County Board of Review. And I want to thank you all and the Mosque Foundation for having me tonight to speak to you. I'm not sure if you are aware what the Board of Review is, but I'll just tell you quickly. It's basically the second level of appeals for property taxes. So the assessor determines the assessed value of your property, and then if you're not happy with that, you can appeal it to him, or you can appeal it to the Board of Review after that. So there's 3 commissioners currently on the Board of Review, and I'm running for one of those spots, which includes this district. And the district is very big. It's actually, what I tell people is every suburb in Cook County, plus the two Chicago wards, 19 and 41, and a little bit of 45. So it's very big. And the reason I'm running is I'm not a politician. I'm an attorney. I've been an attorney for 20 years. I was a Cook County prosecutor, and since then I've done defense work now, criminal defense, real estate, and I did residential property tax appeals as well. This position is very important for many reasons. First of all, the effects of COVID are huge. Before COVID even happened, though, Cook County property taxes were insane. I think you'd all agree with me, probably. Okay. And so somebody needs to step up and do something about it. My opponent's been in for 10 years, and the problem is still there, and actually it's worse. So it's time for a change. COVID now has caused businesses, I don't need to tell you, probably a lot of you know people who have businesses in the area, or you have them yourself. Businesses have suffered greatly, and they need some relief because of COVID. And so there needs to be some sort of relief granted for COVID, and especially because the governor declared a disaster. It is considered a disaster with COVID. So since the date of that declaration, which was in March, the law states that properties can be reassessed as of the date of disaster. So that needs to happen. Now, I know the assessor has given some COVID relief, but it's not uniform. And the Board of Review, specifically my opponent, needs to also give some sort of stated commitment to what kind of COVID relief he's going to give. That would be my priority, is to help the people of this county who have suffered from COVID and even before that. I know so many people are unemployed now. Businesses have shut down, causing unemployment, obviously. And, you know, I've gotten so many calls. How are these businesses supposed to pay their tax bills? That's a good question. So there needs to be some kind of significant stated relief because of that. And not only that, if elected, I do want to implement some new programs. I would like to implement virtual hearings, which I think would be important to the Board of Review, so that people like you or people you know, if you're filing a property tax appeal, you don't have to spend the day traveling on, the train or the bus and exposing yourself to any kind of sicknesses and then sitting down there for hours so that you can have a 5-minute hearing. I think it should just be standard procedure for everybody to do Zoom hearings, or some form of like a Zoom hearing type of thing. I also think that there needs to be the forms need to be printed in all languages. Forms are not printed in all languages, and it's Cook County. I mean, we have lots of languages spoken here, and I would implement that, all forms to be completed in all languages that are spoken here, for ease of use for everyone, because appealing your taxes is not an easy task. I mean, it's pretty detailed, and so I would want to assist in making it easier for people and, of course, to give them better relief. So with that, I just want to say I hope I can get your support. Also, there's only been one woman in the Board of Review in 81 years. One woman. So if elected, I would be the second. And that woman was 20 years ago. But I'd ask for your support, and I ask if you please tell your friends and family also to vote for Tammy Wendt. Thank you very much. Thank you, Ayub.
Thank you so much, Tammy. I really appreciate that. Up next via video is our Senator Jacqueline Collins. She is the Democratic candidate for the Illinois Senate District number 16. So please draw your attention to our screens here. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm State Senator Jacqueline Collins, and I represent the 16th Legislative District. I have served the community since 2003, and it has been an honor to have the Mosque Foundation in my district. Thank you for the invitation to participate in the forum, and I apologize that I cannot be there in person, but I thought it was important for me to record this message to say how grateful I am for the support of the Mosque Foundation and my Muslim American constituent. Let me give a shout out to Ayub Razik, who served as my intern in Springfield for one day. I'm so proud to see that he's civically engaged in his community. Some of the legislation that I've received from my constituents, very innovative and creative legislation over the years that I've served in the General Assembly. Back in 2005, I sponsored the Charity Without Fear legislation, which urged the U.S. government to create a safe list of charitable organizations to which all Americans may make contributions without the fear of prosecution. We know at that time the United States was engaged in harassing various Muslim organizations because of their requirement under their religion to make donations and contributions. And so this legislation went a long way in ensuring that their rights were respected. Also, I believe it was in 2015, I sponsored, based on the innovative and ideas brought to me by the youth of the Muslim community, I sponsored a day to recognize the birthday of Malcolm X. So every May 19th, beginning in 2015, throughout and thereafter, we will be celebrating in the state the May 19th birthday of Malcolm X. Also, in 2017, following that legislation, again, I was able to sponsor legislation that created the Illinois Muslim American Advisory Council, which basically every year they were to present a report to the General Assembly and the governor with recommendations on legislation that they could put forth to ensure that the rights of the Muslim community and the policies that went forth would protect the integrity of that community. Also in 2017, I believe I sponsored the religious garb legislation, which provide that it would be a violation for any employer to impose any kind of condition of restraint or retaining employment, any term of condition that requires a person to violate or forego a sincere held practice of his or her religion. And we know at that time there was a lot of prosecution based on the attire that our Muslim American brothers and sisters in their clothing and their head garb, things that were required in the honor for them to adorn themselves with as a part of practicing their religion. So given the fact that today we are in a racial reckoning across this nation, let me encourage everyone to participate in the process, and you participate in the process by voting. Voting, the voting right, preserves all other human rights. And so let me just say how important it is that you make sure your vote is your voice. How do we change policy to ensure that we're no longer faced with this rhetoric of hate or the Islamophobia that is sweeping this country. And remember what John Lewis said, voting is powerful, voting is precious. Exercise your power and go forth and make your voices heard. It has been a privilege for me to serve you in the community. I look forward to working with you in the future, how we move forward to make America as good as this promise.
I know she can't hear us, but thanks, Senator Collins. Up next, we have the Democratic candidate for state's attorney and the incumbent to that office, Ms. Kim Foxx.
Hello, I'm Cook County State's Attorney Kim Foxx. Thank you for welcoming me to the Mosque Foundation's Community Candidates Forum today. While I'm unable to be there in person, I appreciate the opportunity to speak to your community about what's at stake in this election. At an early age, I learned that your background and your zip code do not determine your ability to make a positive difference for others. I was born in Chicago and raised by a single mom in Cabrini Green. I've always lived and worked in Cook County. It is my home. I'm a wife, a mother of 4 teenagers, a former assistant state's attorney, and today I have the privilege of being your Cook County State's Attorney. Over the past 3 years, we've focused on prosecuting violent crimes instead of spending disproportionate resources towards low-level, nonviolent offenses. We're bringing greater accountability and transparency to police-involved shootings and are leading the nation in creating innovative criminal justice reform that keeps our communities safe. We created the Gun Crime Strategies Unit, where we put prosecutors directly in police districts experiencing the highest levels of violence, which led to a reduction in violent crime. We've brought unprecedented transparency to the state's attorney's office, and we've given people a fresh start through our historic expungement efforts after Illinois legalized cannabis. Nationally, and here in Cook County, we're in the midst of a global pandemic that is hurting our most vulnerable communities, and we're in the midst of a civil rights movement in response to the killings of unarmed Black people. I am determined to respond to the calls for justice by rooting out systemic racism and bias in our systems. My vision for the future of Cook County is one that is equitable and safe for all communities. Ultimately, it's my responsibility and commitment to ensure no matter someone's race, religion, how much money they make, or where they live in Cook County, they are treated fairly and with dignity. I'm running for re-election because we can't afford to go backward on the progress we've made. Our work has just begun. And with your support on November 3rd, we can continue to reform our criminal justice system and make Cook County a better place. Thank you so much for having me today.
Thank you to Ms. Foxx and her campaign for sharing that video with us. We have Mr. Mike Fricalone, who's running for the Illinois 3rd Congressional District on the Republican Party. Please help me welcome Mr. Mike Fricalone.
Thank you, and thank you for letting me come on so late. I had to attend my granddaughter's birthday party, and family comes first. I am Mike Fricalone. I'm currently a county board member in Will County, which is in the southern end of the district. I love being in this neighborhood because right across Harlem Avenue is where my wife of 43 years and I started our life in Chicago Ridge. I grew up in Garfield Ridge, so spent a lot of time out in this area. I'm running for U.S. Senate in the 3rd District. You know, when we lost Dan Lipinski on the other side of the aisle, we lost one of the most common sense congressmen that we had. And I'm very similar in that I believe in common sense. I believe in representing the values of the community, not some socialist, nationalist, leftist agenda. I am pro-life. I'm sure my opponent, when she was here, doesn't tell you that she believes in after-birth abortion. I have 6 grandchildren, and every time I look in their face, I go, how could anybody do that? Give them a chance to live and let them prosper. I also believe that what's most important in a community is safety. When mom goes out with the kids to the soccer game or wherever they might go to the store, they want to know that they can do it safely. So I believe in the police. My opponent wants to defund police. Again, part of that socialist agenda that they keep pushing. I was endorsed by the Chicago police, and the police out here was also endorsed by the Chicago Tribune. I think we have the greatest country here in America. I want to see our country flourish. I don't believe we should be tearing up the Constitution and starting from scratch like many of the socialists that are now coming on board think we should do. I think you have the opportunity here to create wealth. You have the opportunity to become a business owner. The other side of the aisle, one of the new things that they just put out is they want to stop rents for everybody so that they can force landlords to selling to the government so they can turn it into public housing. There's a need for public housing, but that's not the way to do it. I believe our environment is important, but we have to do it financially responsibly. We can't tell people what kind of car they should have or shouldn't have. We need to let people make choice in this country. And that's what this country was founded on. It's been great for over 200 years, and I think it will continue to be great. We also need to let people have a choice when they go for their health care and not mandate that they have to go to some government-run health care program like my opponent wants. And even if you believe in that, I can't imagine that you believe in doubling and tripling your taxes to pay for it. So that's a little bit what I'm about. I appreciate your vote, I really do, and hope to see you on November 3rd in the election. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Appreciate that. We'll be wrapping up here in about 8 minutes or so. It's getting a little bit cold, so we get to go home to our warm, toasty homes, inshallah. Via video, we have Miss Kimberly Dubuclet, who is running for re-election for the Water Reclamation District of Chicago.
Hello. My name is Kim Neely Dubuclet, and I'm running for re-election to be re-elected as a commissioner with the Metropolitan Water Reclamation District. As many of you already know, the Water Reclamation District is responsible for three main things. The first one is to process wastewater. So anything that goes down your drain, anything that goes down your toilet, anything that goes down the sewer, we take that wastewater, we process it to make sure it doesn't make its way back into our fresh water supply, which happens to be Lake Michigan. Secondly, we help to mitigate flooding. So when we have these huge rainstorms, we have tunnels set up to collect excess rainwater so it goes into our tunnels and into our reservoirs instead of into your basement. And then finally, we are an environmental agency responsible for making sure that our freshwater supply, Lake Michigan, stays clean and safe. I grew up in a home that flooded, so I'm very familiar with the perils of having to dig out sludge from your basement. So I'm very sensitive to those issues, and I'm working hard to make sure that those issues become mitigated in Cook County. My background is I'm born and raised in Chicago. I have an undergraduate degree from the University of Illinois in Champaign, and then I also have an MBA from the University of Chicago. I am also a former state representative, and as a state representative, I voted 100% of the time with the Environmental Caucus, and as a result, I received a 100% rating with them, or an A+ rating. So I consider myself an environmentalist, and I look forward to continuing that work as a commissioner on the board. I also work for the Chicago Park District, where I helped community members and elected leaders plan for and build parks throughout Chicago. I also learned the importance of green space. I also led volunteer groups to help do beach cleanups and park cleanups. So I feel that my work as a commissioner currently, my prior work at the Park District, planning for parks and green space, and also as a state representative, make me the ideal candidate to be reelected for a 6-year term with the Metropolitan Water Reclamation District. I thank you for your support, and please contact me if you have any questions. I also want to say I'm running with my slate mates, Commissioner Cam Davis and also Ada Corral Sepulveda. We look forward to all being elected on November 3rd. Thank you.
Thank you to Ms. Dubuclet's campaign for sending that. So I think I can take this off now because I'll be the last person to use this mic. I just wanted to read a letter from Mr. Cameron Davis. He's also an incumbent on the Water Reclamation District of Chicago. I'll get through it relatively quickly so we can all finish up here. He says, Dear Mosque Foundation, as the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ said, the best charity is to give water to drink. I've spent my entire career working to advance this belief. Water is one of our greatest gifts. It does not matter what your age, your race, your faith, your gender, or any other personal background. We all need water to survive and thrive. It is something that unifies us. This belief is why I served as President Barack Obama's point person for restoring the Great Lakes, our drinking water supply. This is why I served as President and CEO of the Alliance for the Great Lakes, a nonprofit citizens organization headquartered in Chicago. This is why I put myself through night school at Chicago Kent College of Law. And this is why I'm running for Water Reclamation District, for re-election as the Commissioner of the Water Reclamation District. I'm glad to answer any questions or otherwise be in touch. And you can visit him, and you can email him at camdavisforus@gmail.com. So that concludes our candidate messages. I just want to reiterate the importance of voting is what really drives us here, drives my work, drives Abu Ghazi's work, drives the work of the outreach team here at the Mosque Foundation. And in order to really establish ourselves more than we've established with a beautiful masjid and beautiful grounds and beautiful schools, is to really establish ourselves in the political realm. And this can be done only by voting. So remember to get out there and vote. And jazakallahu khair, jazakumullahu khair for coming out today. Thank you.